Hey guys, welcome to the Cinema Corral. This is the section of my YouTube channel where I talk about the latest movies and review them. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the movies that came out the weekend of June 28th, 2019. That includes Annabelle Comes Home, Yesterday, and The Last Black Man in San Francisco. So without further ado, let's get started. First up, we got Annabelle Comes Home. This movie technically came out on Tuesday. I know why they put it out, because they're trying to get as much money as they can before Spider-Man comes in and just demolishes it. Gotta be honest, I'm not a huge fan of the Conjuring universe. I thought the first one was alright. Never got around to seeing the second one. I've heard that that one's pretty decent. But with films like Annabelle Creation and The Nun, The Curse of La Llorona, and now Annabelle Comes Home, they've gone from being effective, clever horror films to cheap jump scare fests, and I really hate jump scares. It's the laziest thing that you can do in a horror film. This film is not any different, but it does this thing that I kind of liked where it slightly subverts your expectations in that it'll get the mood ready for what you're expecting to be a jump scare, and then they won't do the jump scare. Now, granted, it's not much of an improvement, but it is at least something. It kind of keeps the audience on their toes. The cast here is pretty decent. Patrick Wilson, Vera Farmiga, they play the Warrens. They're basically just here to bookend the film. They're good. They're always likable. I enjoy seeing them on the screen. The main cast, though, is actually pretty solid. I wasn't expecting a whole lot going into this in terms of the casting. McKenna Grace plays Judy, the Warrens' daughter. Madison Eisman plays Mary Ellen. She's Judy's babysitter. And Katie Sarif plays Daniela, and she is Mary Ellen's friend. They turn in some pretty solid performances, and like I said, they're very likable. The rest of the movie, though, not so much. The story is more or less non-existent. The Warrens go out of town to go take care of some haunting, to go off on some ghost adventure, and they leave their daughter in the care of Mary Ellen, the babysitter. And along the way, Mary Ellen's friend Daniela comes in, and she's heard that the Warrens are into all the spooky stuff, and they have all these artifacts, and they do these basically ghost busting. So she wants to come in and look at all the spooky stuff and touch things, and she actually has an ulterior motive, which surprised me. I was not expecting any depth from these characters. It's not a whole lot of depth, but the moment that her motivation is introduced, it takes the character from being a one-note annoying character to being that much closer to being an actual person. And I genuinely liked that. There are some decent production values here, the set design's pretty nice, and the film does a good job setting up lighting and atmosphere for these kind of scares, but unfortunately, unlike the cast and the production design, the script itself is lacking. There are no real stakes here, nobody gets seriously injured. The monsters here are more akin to Scooby-Doo characters than anything remotely resembling something evil. There are some really dumb ones too. There's like a fog werewolf, a haunted dress, there's some haunted samurai armor, there's a spooky television. It's nothing particularly scary, and they don't do anything really with it. And for a film titled Annabelle Comes Home, Annabelle doesn't really do anything. Now, we know that she's basically a conduit for these spirits, but what does she do? Why do people think she's scary? She's not scary outside of the stupid design. I hate Annabelle's design. I know that it's an evil doll, but like, why you gotta be so obvious about it? Why you gotta give her the stupid face and the bug eyes? And I just hate the design so much. But my main point is that she doesn't actually do anything. She just kind of sits there. I don't find her scary, and that's the biggest problem with this film. It's not scary. It's a lot of jump scares, and occasionally there's some good tension building, but you know it's just gonna lead to a jump scare. And the scares are dumb. On top of that, characters are incredibly stupid. One of the characters, Mary Ellen, she walks directly toward a threat instead of running the other way. Each of the characters are stalked by their own monster, so Mary Ellen is stalked by a character called the Ferryman, and basically if you don't give him some coins or something, he'll take your soul. So coins are being dropped. If you've seen the trailer, you've seen this. Coins are being dropped in the kitchen or something, and she's picking them up one by one like it's a trail leading directly to a trap. She picks one up, looks at it, puts it down, and right in front of her face, it might as well just... You ever been on the Haunted Mansion? You know at the very end in the graveyard scene, how as you're going through, occasionally behind a tombstone, a little ghost will pop up? That's basically what happens here. It's stupid. It's really stupid. There are so many dumb decisions made in this film. Daniela touches everything in the Warrens' museum that's locked. Oh, she gets the keys in a stupid way. So like this door has at least 5 locks on this door, right? This is a majorly secure area. So you'd think that with all of this evil possessed stuff in their house, 1, why would you live there? 2, why are you gonna keep this thing like where your keys to this place are so easily accessible? She finds the keys in the dumbest way, right? So she's snooping around and she finds the door that leads to the actual room that has all the stuff in it. And she tries to get in, she can't get in. She tries calling out to a spirit, nothing happens. So she finds another door, an office. And so she's snooping around there, and on the desk is a framed picture of Jesus. And so she says something like, "Oh, don't judge me." The picture falls over, and right behind it are the keys to get in there. And I'm just like, you didn't bring the keys with you? Why didn't you bring the keys with you, Warrens? You're so dumb. Why? Oh my god. It gets really, really dumb in this movie. The movie also continues this trend where it'll set up scenes specifically for a jump scare. It's really cheap. It's a dumb way to tell your story. Look, it's more laughable than scary. Like, you can enjoy this movie. You can absolutely have a good time with your friends watching this movie because of how dumb it gets. But it's not a very effective horror film. And I don't know if that was the intent or the unfortunate result. They've made a movie that is not scary, and for some reason this movie's got an R rating, but like, it doesn't deserve the R rating. This is PG-13 at best. Like, this is some Scooby-Doo level horror. It's so dumb. Oh my god. And on top of that, it's just boring. As a film, there's nothing really to the story, so you get bored pretty quickly. I can't recommend full price for this movie. People who wanted to see it have probably already seen it by now. I don't know if it's on Netflix or you see it in Redbox. It's certainly watchable, but it's not something that I would go out of my way to recommend. I probably won't ever watch it again, but thinking back on just how stupid it gets, it's hilarious. I'm going to go ahead and give Annabelle Comes Home a D+. It's not offensively bad, it's occasionally fun in a campy way, but it ultimately feels disposable. Next up, we've got Yesterday, and this is the film that asks what would happen if the Beatles never existed, and it never really does anything more than that. That's really unfortunate because that's a pretty decent premise for a movie. The idea has genuine potential. The cast is pretty good. Himesh Patel plays Jack, and Lily James plays, I think Ellie was the character's name. They're both likable and charismatic enough. And if you've seen the trailer, you know that there's a romance subplot, and the romance is fine at the beginning. You can tell that they both genuinely care about each other, but it reaches a point where it just gets so stupid, almost regressively stupid. So there's a point where Jack's about to hit the big time and he's going to release one of the biggest albums of all time with all these Beatles songs, and he's got a press conference. So he goes to Liverpool, and there Ellie meets up with him, and they have close to a one-night stand, and she says no. So before she goes back to the small town they're originally from, Jack rushes to the airport to basically try and convince her to be with him. She says, "I've loved you for 10 years and you've never noticed me," and all this hokey cliche nonsense that you've seen before. She essentially asks him to give up everything to go be with her. Now, in some way that can be construed as romantic. Oh, he gave up fame and success to go be with me. But no, why does he have to give up all of his dreams? This is something that we've been shown that Jack very clearly cares about. From the first minute, we're shown that Jack really wants to be a musician, a famous musician. And thanks to this weird shift in reality where the Beatles don't exist, he's finally given a chance because he happens to know, 1, that the Beatles even existed, and 2, how to play a majority of their songs. So he's given a chance to actually achieve his goals. Why does he have to give that up? That's dumb. On a more technical level, there's some decent editing. There's a really odd choice, and the thing is that it only happens once in this movie. Right around the time that Jack is about to go off to LA to go make it big in the music business, they have this weird transition to a going away party for him, and there's these ugly CGI balloons that wipe the screen, and it doesn't happen anywhere else in the movie. It's just that one scene, and it felt really out of place, and it reminded me of a really low budget film, or even, you ever see that Inspector Gadget movie from like 1999? It reminded me of that with all the stupid transitions that were in that movie. The comedy, for the most part, is pretty fine. There's some pretty good jokes, and a lot of that really comes down to the performances of the actors. I didn't dig Kate McKinnon's character. She felt very two-dimensional, whereas all the other characters, for the most part, felt fleshed out. I won't say that they were perfectly fleshed out, but in comparison to McKinnon's character, she plays a record executive. She felt one note. I have a feeling that there was a lot of improv going on, and she was more annoying than funny. There's also a point where the film starts to drag, and I think that's around the time that the romance subplot takes center stage. The biggest problem with this movie is that it has a great premise, and it doesn't fully capitalize on it. Like, you're given teeny little tastes of something that could have been an awesome movie. I was genuinely looking forward to this movie. I love the Beatles. I thought we were going to get a little bit more style in here based on how the trailers were edited. We didn't really get all of that. Instead, we get a lame rom-com that's got a Beatles soundtrack. The soundtrack is fine. It's got that Bohemian Rhapsody syndrome where people end up liking a movie even though it's not the greatest just because they heard songs they liked. On top of that, the ending feels incredibly rushed. There's no real gravitas to anything that happens in the third act. It's just kind of swept under the rug and forgotten about. And there's a scene that's kind of questionable in taste. I'm not going to spoil it. It was kind of surprising to me. It's not appalling. It's just an odd decision that I didn't feel was entirely necessary. Oh, real quick. Okay, so we were in the movie, right? We went to like a 7:20 screening. Right around the beginning of the third act, this lady walks in, flashlight in hand, and she walks right down my aisle, like right past my line of vision. She sits down, and then I guess her husband or something comes in and sits down. Turns out they had walked into the wrong theater, right movie, wrong showtime. It was just so baffling to me. It's nothing really about the movie, it's just something kind of funny that happened. All in all, though, I'm going to go ahead and give Yesterday a C-. It's nothing offensively bad, but it really could have been so much more. Last up, we got The Last Black Man in San Francisco, and this is Joe Talbot's directorial debut. It tells the story of Jimmy Fails, played by Jimmy Fails, and Mont, played by Jonathan Majors. Jimmy has an obsession with this house in San Francisco. He genuinely loves this house. It's very special to him, so much so that he'll skateboard miles and miles and miles just to go do touch-ups on this house. He doesn't even own the house. He lives in an impoverished area of San Francisco where there's water pollution, and it's definitely the product of gentrification. And so the entire movie revolves around Jimmy and Mont trying to basically live in this house. They will go to any means, and it's gorgeous. I absolutely love this film. On top of that, you got Danny Glover playing Mont's grandfather. It's kind of a minor role, but he's really good in it. Jimmy Fails and Jonathan Majors are phenomenal in this film. They have great chemistry. They're fun to watch. They're very lovable. They feel like well-defined characters. There's gorgeous cinematography in this movie. Just absolutely breathtaking. One of the things that I really loved about this film is that it paints a very vivid image of San Francisco as a city. You see the impoverished areas, and you see the richer areas, and you just get a feel for the city. I know it sounds very cliche to say this, but it genuinely felt like the city itself was its own character. I love that Talbot made the city a part of the story instead of just a setting. Speaking of setting, the set design is fantastic in this film. There's so much detail in every frame of this picture. You can tell they definitely paid attention to the mise-en-scène, and that really enhances the film for me. Now, I normally don't talk about the score all that much when I'm reviewing movies, but the score in this film is beautiful. It's mostly just piano, which is fine. Occasionally they'll throw in, like a genuine song, but the piano score is so beautiful, and it conveys so much about the setting and the mood and the emotions and what's being felt by the characters, and wow, it's incredible. The script here is very strong, and it tackles themes of gentrification, and the central theme of this movie is breaking past the situation you were born into. And it doesn't shy away from addressing issues that are plaguing black communities in America. The most notable one is being the polluted water. These people have to live in these areas because they can't afford $4 million houses. They were practically shoved into these unlivable conditions by the system and given no way to really escape that. That really adds a sense of realism to this film. Speaking more to the characters, Jim and Mont, their friendship is so refreshing. It's very loving. You can tell that they very much love each other, very much like brothers. They have this sincere connection to them, and on top of the incredible performances, you feel like, one, you've known these characters for a while, and two, you feel like their friendship extends way earlier than what we've seen in the film. And that's the sign of, one, good writing, and two, a great performance, when you can believe that these two people actually exist. I don't want to get too much more into the film. I just feel like there are things in this movie that are better left experienced than explained over an internet video. Absolutely go see this. This is probably one of my favorite films of the year. It'll make you laugh, it'll make you cry, it'll really make you think about things. I'm giving The Last Black Man in San Francisco an A+. If you see one movie this weekend, absolutely go see this film. I know it's probably not going to see the numbers that it deserves, and it's more than likely going to be forgotten about by the time Spider-Man comes in, but this is a genuine work of art. Go see this film. Well, that's all I've got for this episode of Cinema Corral. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can get notified whenever I upload next. I'm actually going to be out of town this coming weekend, the weekend of July 4th, so my reviews for that week are going to be a little late, and then I'm also going to be in Pennsylvania for the weekend of the 12th through the 14th, so July is just going to be a weird month for me. I'm going to try my best to get my videos out there as quickly as possible and within a decent amount of time from the actual movie's release, but I can't promise anything. I got a lot going on. I'm moving to a new apartment. July is just a really busy month for me. But until next time, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.